Hi, in this episode we'll install all required software and set up the project. As we plan to deploy our application to Heroku, basically it's a good idea to have as close development environment to the Heroku as possible. So we'll use Ruby 1.9.3 version with Rails 3.2.13. Also we'll use PostgreSQL as a database and Unicorn for the server. To install Ruby, I use RBenv, which could be installed by Homebrew. Remember that on macOS you need to have Xcode command line tools installed. To do that, you just go to developer.apple.com and you go to Member Center. Of course, you need to sign up for a free account. Then in Dev Center, you go to Mac and scroll down and go to View All Downloads. And in here, just search for Xcode or command line tools for your operating system. Download and install it. Now, when you have command line tools installed, you can install Homebrew by going to the Homebrew homepage and just scroll down to the bottom and copy and paste this line to your terminal. After you install Homebrew, you can install RBenv and Ruby build, very simple, with the brew install command. Like this for RBenv, and after that, Ruby build. After you've done that, you can install the version of Ruby that you need with command RBenv install and the version of the Ruby that you want to install. In our case, that's going to be 1.9.3 page 392. After you've done that, and if you want to make it as a default Ruby version in your system, just make the command RBenv global and the number of the version, like this. Also, we're going to use Git in this course. So again, if you do not have one, you can install it with Homebrew, as simple as that. And to install Rails, you just do, after you made your Ruby as a default one, just make sure that you have the proper Ruby in your terminal, and if not, just restart your terminal, and after that you just can do gem install Rails. And that's gonna install the latest stable version of Rails. As we plan to deploy our application to Heroku and we want to be as close as possible, we need to use PostgreSQL for database because Heroku uses one. So let's install it with the help of Homebrew. We just do brew install PostgreSQL. No surprises here. That will download and compile the PostgreSQL from the sources, and it will take some time, so I'm gonna skip it. Okay, now we just need to follow the instructions provided by PostgreSQL in Homebrew. So in here, first thing that we need to do is to initialize database, and we do it simply by copying and paste this line into our terminal. And let's create all required files. Now we can start our database by running this command right here, or if you scroll up, you can see another command, pg_stl, then we point out what database we want to use, just created one, user local var postgres, and then the log file which will store in the same folder, and then the command start. Or if you want PostgreSQL to be started right on the startup of your system, you can copy this line here, gonna copy and paste it, and right after that I'm gonna scroll up again. We just load this right now, but every time you start up your Mac, you will have PostgreSQL started. Excellent, that's all that we need to do to install and set up PostgreSQL. By default, username is the same as the user who installed it. So in this case, I have Remchi username on this Mac and empty password. So in your case, there's gonna be your username and an empty password by default. Okay, so now let's install Heroku, and for that we go to toolbelt.heroku.com and just download and install the Heroku toolbelt for your operating system. And that will give us the Heroku client, which we'll use in deployment chapter where we'll deploy our application to the Heroku, and also Foreman utility that will help us to start our server locally in development environment. Also, it provides us with Git, but we already have one. Excellent. Now let's create our application. We go to terminal and we just do the command Rails new skite, and we skip unit testing and we use PostgreSQL as a database. Okay, now let's cd into it, and I'm gonna initialize Git repository, add files, and make the initial commit. Okay, let's open it up in editor, and let's go to database YAML file, and we're gonna change this username skite to your username. In my case, that's Remchi. And save this file. Now let's go to terminal and make the rake db create command. Everything went fine. Now rake db migrate. Okay, it worked, so let's add and commit. We're gonna use strong parameters gem to handle mass assignment, so let's install it and configure. Let's open gem file, we go to the bottom, and in here I'm gonna add strong parameters gem, save the file, go to terminal, bundle. Now let's go to config initializers and create new file, we call it active record. And in here I'm gonna paste the following line. We send include message to the active record base, so it will include active model forbidden attributes protection, which means that every active record that we create automatically will have this module included. Otherwise, we would need to include this module on every active record. Okay, let's save it. And also we need to go to application.rb file, and here at the bottom on line 60, we need to disable whitelist attributes. So let's make it false. And that's all that we need to do to set up strong parameters gem. So let's commit. Okay, now let's install Unicorn. For that, let's go back to gem file. And in here I'm gonna add Unicorn. Save it, go back to terminal, bundle. And now we need to add simple configuration. We create new file in config, and we call it unicorn.rb. And I'm gonna paste very simple one. We just use 3 workers. We set timeout, we preload application, and before we fork it, we disconnect from active record, and after we fork, we establish connection again. So very simple. We just save it. And also in root folder of the project, we're gonna create new file, proc file, to use with Heroku's foreman. And I'm gonna paste here this line. It just executes Unicorn with default port, which is 5000, and uses our configuration. Okay, let's save it. Now to start the server, all we need to do is just go to terminal and run the command. I'm gonna open new tab for that, and run the command foreman start. Now if you go to browser, to localhost 5000 and reload the page, here is our Rails application running properly. Excellent. Let's commit. Okay, the time has come for Ember. So let's go back to gem file, and right here I'm gonna add Ember Rails gem, and also I'm gonna add another gems, and that's Ember source, and I specify 1.0.0.rc3.4. That's the latest one for the time of writing, and also handlebar source, which is rc4. Okay, I'm gonna save it, go to terminal, bundle. Now we need just make the command Rails generate Ember bootstrap. And this command generates the file tree for our project. And also we need to copy this line and paste it in our environment configuration. So let's copy it, go back to editor, and I'm open development.rb file first. And here I'm gonna paste it, save and quit. And next test.rb, also the same thing. And also the production.rb, copy, but here of course I need production line. Okay, I'm save it and close it. So now let's see what files this command created. So we go to app assets javascripts, and you can see a lot of empty folders in here. That's where we place our models, routes, and templates and all this stuff. And also we have 4 files. The first one is application.js, the standard manifest file created by Rails application. And you can see here that we require handlebars, Ember, and Ember data, as well as this file where we define this skite object, which is the Ember application, and then we require skite. I'm gonna delete this line, we don't need it. So let's have a look at skite.js.coffee. That's the simple manifest file which requires files in the specific order and the folders. Also we have router, for now it's an empty one, and the store.js coffee where we define the Ember data store. And we need to change this revision from 4 to 11. And I'm gonna save it. Okay, so now let's bootstrap Ember application. we have the basics generated by Ember.js, so we need to make a little change to make it work. First, let's delete the public index file. And then just in templates, we're gonna create a new file and we call it application.hbs. And then here we just do this simple hello world, and I'm gonna save it. And also I need to create root route for Rails applications, so I go to routes.rb file, and then here I create route to, and we call it application. We use application controller index section. So I'm gonna save it, and here in views I need to create new folder, I call it application, and in this folder I need to create index.html.erb file, and it's gonna be blank. So I'm gonna close it. Okay, so let's restart our server and go to browser and reload the page. And now we have our hello world, excellent. So now if you go to console, we can see this deprecation message, and this comes from Ember Data, where it uses this deprecated register method. So to get rid of this deprecated alert, let's install the latest versions of Ember and Ember Data, and it's very easy. We just do the Rails generate Ember install head. And that will fetch sources from GitHub for Ember and Ember Data and compile them and include them in our project. Okay, so as you can see, it fetched the sources and then it was building it, and it includes the Ember.js into vendor assets Ember development or production, as well as Ember Data. So if we want to roll back to initial Ember and Ember Data versions, we just remove these files, and that's all that we need to do. So now if we go back to browser and reload the page, it's still there because we need to restart server. Okay, and after I restart the server and reload the page, you can see the clean and nice console, which is a good thing. So let's commit. And the last thing, let's install Foundation Framework for our design ventures. So I'm gonna open again gem file, and I go to assets group, and here I'm gonna add Zub Foundation, and then back to terminal bundle, and after that Rails generate Foundation install. And that will generate Foundation and overrides .scss file and include it into application.css manifest, as well as include Foundation.js files into application.js file. Also, it asks us to replace default layout of Rails, so yeah. Okay, so let's have a look. Here under layouts we have application.html.rb, and you can see that it has been changed by Foundation. And let's make this title as kite and save it. And now when we restart server and go back to browser and reload the page, you can see that style has been changed. Excellent. Let's commit. Okay, and for now I'm just gonna paste some dummy markup into application.hbs file. Instead of hello world, I'm gonna paste this very simple markup. We have a top bar where we will have our menu. Then we have a main container in which we have panel with information about the user, and below it we have our lists of achievements. Also, I need to copy previously downloaded pictures to app assets images. And that's just an icons of Facebook and Twitter. And now when we go to browser and load the page, you can see our Ninja about me, and here is the list of achievements. Great. Let's commit. And also I'm gonna add tag 0102. Great, we've done with the initial setup. In this episode we installed all required software and created our application. In the next episode we start implementing achievements management features, so see you then.